And we present art and either an art piece, a motion picture, and if we do it correctly, we're intending to move our audience to a different space after the experience. And that can take place in a 2-hour or a 2-second inspiration. And the critiquing, I feel, is always putting a framework around the art piece and putting it in context so that the critic allows unexperienced people who have not seen the artwork to understand what they might be experiencing in some respects. And then, unfortunately, coming from acting and performing, some critics are like Monday morning quarterbacks. They prefer just to tear down what they would have done better. But with that being said, there can be critical inspirations and inferences that bring something in the artist may never have intended originally.
May I?
You're muted, Christine.
I was going to say, I see Mariette wants to say something, and then maybe other folks want to, who haven't chimed in yet, maybe have something to share.
Yeah, I write theory and criticism sometimes for friends who have galleries and things like that, and also I think that, you know, one of the most honest ways that an artist can feel seen is actually if they get a crit. Because if nobody's commenting, then nobody cares, and then you're not even alive as far as the art world is concerned. And I think art practice here is being confused a bit with art as a world, the art world. And so I'm a stickler like that. I'm a killjoy. But the reason I bring it up is because there is a very real something that comes when people appreciate your work, whether they negatively appreciate it or positively. And when they reflect that to you, it can bring you to you as an artist that sense of context that you would not have gotten. It's like you can't see the back of your head, right? And so it's very useful in that sense. The place where it becomes more problematic is when it's, you know, again, when the critique is mostly done in that sort of cynical way in order to help determine whether or not this person is worth buying. And then also the only other last part of the political aspect is that some of the best books of criticism I've seen on society have actually come from artistic groups, theater groups, ensemble groups, those who have community practice, and then create their own critiques of society and then publish those along posthumously or along with the work. Because if you don't explain anything and you leave that completely up to the reader of the piece, I think as Mark was saying, or excuse me, John might have been saying, then you're not giving them any intro to who you are and why you made it. And so that's fine, but it's a lot to ask of a person, you know. You're not actually basing your relationship on something. They'll have a relationship with the piece, they won't have a relationship with you. And I think that's all important to me personally.
I was I was trying to sort out your question, Christina, and I think, Maria, I think that's what the original question was, more on the of art as a critique of society and culture versus critiquing the art.
Right.
I think that's where we started. Yeah. So thank you for looping back around there, Maria. I think it's always been that way. I think that's when we look at the old Greek theater, that's what it was about. It was bringing that to right in front of everybody in these kind of ironic ways to hold up the mirror, right? That's what artists are here to do, whether we like it or not.
Well, I really am interested in this stance that I mean, I guess I would broadly call it regenerative themes, about deepening personal inquiry, connecting with the land, that we depend on, challenging, capitalism and all, like that's the critique. I'm taking a dyeing class right now with a natural dyer who's very, like in one sense, she's sort of an unreconstructed hippie and just loves to, she just is all about the authentic experience of growing things and having this very integrated relationship with the world. And that authenticity, like, is her critique, right? Like that's her take on like modern capitalism. It's like, fuck it. And so I'm very curious about that too. Yeah, when is sort of withdrawing from the system, and when is that the criticism? And I don't know, there's just so many curious aspects of it.
I just want to check in whether Alyssa or Jordan, because I'd love you to share if you feel inclined to. Be nice to hear your voices. No pressure.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the conversation. This is my first time here, so I'm mostly in a receptive and listening mode and just enjoying the ebbs and flows. I will say, as I'm really resonating with a little bit my evolution as a creative person, where in the beginning I wanted to just be in this kind of like channeling mode where I'm just like channeling whatever the fuck, basically. It was mixed media all over the place. It was best basically for myself. And anybody who might say, oh, that's interesting. And then that got a little dissatisfying. And so I got into design world and am really looking at, how does this thing, I do see it as like a separate being, almost, creativity that comes through us. And it's like, how can that connect with what's going on in the world? How can it influence? How can it create more justice? So it's like, can we be targeted? Can we target? Oh, sure, we're channeling through from the unconscious, all this stuff. Okay, can we channel it and direct it? It's a very juicy question for me, and so I'm really just appreciating this dialogue. Thanks for being here.
Well, from my side, no. Okay, Jess, please, John Van, go on, please.
Oh, John.
Well, I was just going to, I got an image when Elisa was speaking about the coming down of the experience, that much like the light behind Mark, it is just an experience that we then frame in words, pictures, colors, and then we try and flavor the experience with an emotional content and try at that point to share with the receiver the image that we perceived. I find when I'm talking about dreams, I'm limited by my language and hoping the other person understands what it is I'm trying to convey. Because you can't convey the feeling of a strawberry skin unless someone's had the experience. And art is our attempt to share an experience.
I would like to say that I think that sometimes even writers or painters, they can express what they really, their experience. It's very difficult to express something or an experience. I mean, and they try their best. They are artists because also it's a profession, because you become professionals when you practice and practice and practice an art, or by writing, by painting, and then you express yourself better and better and better by practicing and by having talent and by being inspired. I just some just raw idea when you talk. I just starting to think that I starting to come to my mind. But we are like a vibration, in a mean that all the things we feel during a day or during feeling. I feel sad, I feel enjoy, I feel happy. Those are all vibrations, and sometimes difficult. What is your vibe? We are vibrating all the time. And when you are mad, you're vibrating. When you are sad, you're vibrating. When you are, you can feel it, and people can feel it, and it's very tangible. And I think as a vibratory humans, where we use those feelings, and we mix it with practice, and I think it's you really need. It's like you need to really want to communicate something. You really need to have passion to say, I want to express something, and you need to decide that. And sometimes you are on the side. Sometimes you say, okay, I would like to write an article, but not today. I feel lazy today. Perhaps other day. But when you decide at the moment, I will write it. What the fuck? I will write it now because I want to express my ideas in that moment. Then it's when it emerge, and then you change your vibration and etc. But it's a struggle with yourself, how to express and do this discipline thing, and decide I will express it.
That reminds me of the term strike while the iron is hot. When you're in that moment, and I've done metal work where you actually get the metal to red hot, and it's moldable. You can impress it with the shape you want it to be. And that's that moment of inspiration when it strikes. It's like, I don't have a choice. I've got to do this. And that's where I think the best creativity and the best art comes out.
Yes, someone says you're inspired by God. No, but you can be God, or can be wherever you want in the universe. But it's the universe is giving you a talent and the buzz, spirit. And if you don't spirit, it's your fault. You have the idea, and you have the moment, you have the time, and then you say, "Oh, I won't do nothing." Then it's a waste of life.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a coincidence.
It happens to me a lot of time. I'm struggling with how not to be lazy and how to be self-disciplined. I started writing something, then I stopped, and then I'm trying again. It's difficult. It's very difficult too, as well.
That opens up a whole nother thread. I mean, the idea that we impose ourselves into our art as part of our own therapy that we have to do something with it. You know, I know in my life, there's times where I haven't, and it's like, oh God, I'm not doing something, you know, it's like, but that's, I don't think that's truly the art of life. I think it's about finding those pauses too, to be able to receive and to take it in and to absorb. But yeah, I wouldn't beat yourself up over not producing. I think that's part of humanity's problem, is we've overproduced. I mean, how many of you, I know for myself, I've got too many canvases. I don't know what to do with them, because I don't necessarily paint to have an exhibit. I paint to express, and then I stop painting because it's like, what am I going to do with these canvases? So there's, you know, I don't know. There's so many ways to think about this. I just this morning I was reading an article about how the microplastics in the ocean, we're just discovering that majority of it is from paint. Now, it's not necessarily from our palettes, but it is from paint, in all the different ways that paint is used. That's the biggest polluter. And it makes me think, like, you know,
Can't win.
yeah, you know, and so I think part of our artness is finding our way out of this maze that we all realize we're all sensing, because we're becoming louder as a voice, because now the way that we can communicate and we can share our art and our expression, and that we're all just attuning to this notion that something just isn't right. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right now because a lot of us don't feel right. And that makes me not feel more not right, you know? So there's something in that. And then that drives the artness, that drives the desire. And then, like, I know in the design science studio, the most common thing with each co-art, and you may feel this yourself, is when you show up and you go, I'm not alone. There's others here that feel the same way. They're expressing themselves differently, but deep inside that, what's radiating, what's beaming from their heart is very similar. It's a drive, it's a passion, it's a desire. It's an ideal that I truly believe humanity is stuck with. And that's how to live on this planet for a long time. And so hence we've arrived at this regen era, this time frame of story that is trying to weave us all into it in some wholeheartedly way through our expression. How beautiful is that? Whew.
So before Ulysses, I wanted to, so I'm putting in the chat, because he has to leave in a couple of minutes, a new network that is starting. It's called the Deep Transformation Network. It's on Mighty Networks also. And for those of you who are interested in, you know, this idea that we have to change everything, this is a place to talk about that, with some really amazing global figures are showing up, plus a lot of just regular interesting involved folks. There's the link, and it's I'm going to be heading up an arts and creatives group there that you know, we're meeting next Tuesday at noon Pacific to have an initial check-in with, like, who's here, what's the energy, what do we want to do. Yeah, I may end up hosting kind of semi-regular sessions there. You know, hopefully we'll facilitate different kinds of creatives and artists, you know, writers, filmmakers, whoever. And the network was started by a guy, Jeremy Lent, who's an author, and his most recent book, The Web of Meaning, is kind of gets into this, like, who are we? Why? How did we get to this particular moment, and where do we go next? So it's a space for the big questions. I think GRC is often a bit more about kind of innovation and solutioneering, and so I think the other space is very complementary to it. And so let's keep the conversation going here and also there. Anyway, you're invited. GRC is sort of, you know, has this membership kind of word of mouth notion. Deep Transformation Network has just started this week. but we're really going for a global reach and diversity and on all sorts of fronts, everything from justice to economies to arts and creativity. So that's my invitation to you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I know we have a few more minutes, even though Ulysses has to go.
I need to go. Thank you. Bye bye, guys. Nice to meet
Bye.
you. Bye.
John, did you have something to say?
Well, it was, I'll have to address it to Ulysses offline, but it was where we are all feeling this vibration or these frequencies that we need to change. And it's not uncommon to see an idea I've had reflected somewhere else at the same time. It's like we're all part of the whole, and this creative idea, this frequency is hitting all of us, and we react to it in our own personal ways. So it's just it's a commonality, and I don't think enough people have accepted that that's true. There are a lot of people still stuck in the individual model that I am alone in the universe and disconnected.
You know, the word noosphere is the perfect example. The idea of the noosphere is the perfect example of what you're talking about, John, because the idea of the noosphere expresses this idea of a commons of mind that we're all part of. And the term noosphere was actually thought of in two different places on this planet at the same time, in Russia and in France by two gentlemen in the 20s. Isn't that interesting? Noosphere.
Yes, I'm also really, I take a lot of inspiration from living systems theory, and just to say, yes, we're all part of this living, breathing organism. That's how I've been talking about it lately. And so for an artist, it's like, yeah, an artist may feel they're working alone or working out in the woods and may feel that they have unplugged from society even. But they're still part of this organism, and so whatever they're kind of downloading and crystallizing, I think still informs the organism. So yeah, I feel like even if you feel you're isolated and it's not mattering, like I feel, yeah, it's definitely still mattering, and that's how I'm. Anyway, the story sense making I'm telling myself, it seems to be helping something.
Christopher, you've been real quiet.
Haven't I? Yeah, just absorbing all this. I think what I've been pondering as the conversation has flowed is and forgive me because this is just my deep thesis right now, is the mechanism around the communication of art and how we go about that. Where I think it started for me when you brought up, Christina, the notion of critiquing, and somewhere in that cycle of conversation we got into how art is critiqued, how it is received, by extension, that intoning that the creation of art is in some way the intent to be seen. And what's the right answer in our endeavors to be seen? there's kind of the full commercialization of art. And then there's the deep trying of being seen, a la social media or similar mechanisms. And then there's creation, I guess, with the hope that one is going to be seen. And I wrestle with that spectrum of, what is appropriate, what is true, what is the most effective, and and then that gets into how do you measure effectiveness? Is it the generation of income? Is it likes on social media? Is it just general impact? So that I've been quiet because that has all been stewing.
No big deal. Just, a question or two.
Yeah, right.
And I think, Mariette, you wanted to share something, and then I want to hold back a few minutes at the end just to show, especially the newer guests, visitors, friends, how to connect with us by doing a quick screen share. Mariette, did you still want to share something?
No, I think I originally it was in response to Alyssa and just how much I resonated with some of what you were saying there. And it brought me back to Christina, to your question about critique as well. So basically what came into my mind was that it's important to remind ourselves perhaps that the modern critique and art world system is not maybe our system. When let's say Damien Hirst is at the very top and his thing is cynicism. And I got into a big Twitter row with some people about that. I mean, I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm not critiquing his art. I'm just saying he kind of sells cynicism the same way Warhol did. And I'm okay with that. Someone's got to do it. You see, I don't see those things as being necessarily bad, because just like in an ecology, you need the things, the worms, you need the nematodes, you need all the things, you need the vultures, you need all of it. So I'm okay with it. And I think that maybe what I'm hearing is that, these types of groups are the places where we go off into the woods as mutually connected hermits. And by engaging in the practice together, we then help create a solidified movement that people can look to over time and say, yes, that was interesting and significant. Whereas if we all just do it alone, then we just have people who knew us and loved us to probably be like, oh, they were significant and they really influenced me. Great. So that's what I took out of that.
Yeah, I just thank you for that, because I'm sitting here. If you really knew me, I have two daughters. One's house burnt down yesterday, and the other's got invited by another gallery. So it's like living in this frame of mind of who am I significant to is very meaningful in this very moment for me. So thank you for that. And I sit with that regularly, because a lot of my art is not seen, because I pray for myself and those that are close to me. Now I'm coming out of the closet, so to speak, because I feel my time has come to serve in a certain way. And that has come through my art. And so out of that, I'm here, I'm sitting with you all, and I've heard a beautiful thing today. One is maybe we're moving from the act of criticism and noticing, which is what I feel our generation has done, my generation, our generation, of noticing where we need to make the shifts. The last while has been connecting, again, through these new technologies to form this collective consciousness that we actually are inherently carrying within us, but relearning how to connect this way. And therefore it's like, show up, and the way that we're weaving now is what I find really intriguing. So I really appreciate, Christina, meeting you and hearing about what's happening with the Deep Transformation Network that you're starting with, and how the arts are woven into that. And Claire and I have talked about how the Design Science Studio and and GRC Arts can cross-pollinate. So now we've got Mariette and John here joining from the DSS. And so we're trying to find ways to weave. I'll be working on that project more. So I look forward to how else we can present the changes we want to see in the world versus just the criticisms. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Mark. I'm really sorry to hear about your daughter's house. Christina, thank you so much for hosting one of those conversations that's sort of an irritant, a necessary irritant, right? Because as artists, I can't help but feel that our time is now. You know, it's an important time, never perhaps more important, although maybe in history people always think that, but it seems like the evidence would suggest that we're at a precipice point. And so for artists who can language things in all sorts of unique and novel ways to inspire and educate and inform and challenge any kind of status quo, especially one that is existentially tragic, then this is our time. This is our time to share resources and ideas, to collaborate, to cross-pollinate, and to generate stuff that is both subtle and in your face, because we really don't have the time to faff around. I see Jeff Koons being mentioned, you know, and that sets off a whole slew of images in my mind and reactions. But I just want to give an actual visual invitation. I've put the link in the chat. So this is the GRC Arts group. This is our own Mighty Networks group. And I please, you know, I invite you all to come in. It's where we can share ideas, knowledge about grant applications, collaboration ideas, topics that you either want to propose for someone else to do or for yourself to do, information, ideas. This is one of the things, and then all the events are here. So this is today's. Next week, Michelle will be hosting. And there's just a lot of stuff coming up. When you join, you'll automatically be part of the dynamic emergence community, which is the focus on how novelty arises. Whether it's, because I'm an artist, of course, the bias is very much there in arts and the relationship to our evolving consciousness as well. So you'll see in the groups this one, and that's when you go straight to the GRC Arts group. But there are other groups too. So you're invited, you're needed. You're needed. So even if our art is for us, there is something in that that has value for raising our collective self-awareness. So I grew up in an environment where the arts were perceived as being either self-indulgent, useless, or deified because they were in the Royal Academy of Arts or the Tate or something stuffy. And it's like, no, arts is alive. It's a monster, a beautiful monster of aliveness with many heads and toes and the potential for impact. So let's support each other. Let's continue to reach out when we need support. Because, you know, it's not always a supportive world for us, but they need us. And I say that with full arrogance. There it is. And thank you for being here today.
Yes, thanks for coming, everybody. We'll hope to see you again here, there, and everywhere.
Here, there, and
Thanks.
everywhere.
Thank you.
A wonderful
Thank you.
hour.
Thank you. It was lovely.
Thank you, Christina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina.
And thanks everyone for coming, especially for me, new faces.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, Jordan. Bye, John. Mark, do you want to stay on for a second?
Yeah, I just don't want to leave you hanging because I threw that out there about my daughters, and I just wanted to let you know that everybody's fine. They're just, you know, this is Zoe, who's in Montana, and yesterday I was at the end